Oh my word, it's so sunny. I apologise. I'm sure you can see me okay. You won't need to see me because you can see the screen. I want to jump in and say welcome to all the new subscribers to this channel. I really appreciate how many of you have recently joined. I suspect it's got a lot to do with the Zwift racing and the live streaming. If it is, then I hope you're enjoying it because it's all that I can really do at the minute. So anyway, this video is about, well, I was scrolling through Strava the other day and I follow a couple of World Tour professionals, as you do, and I picked up on a comment on, I can't remember who it was now. Anyway, his name escapes me, but there was a comment on one of his rides and somebody asked, I would love to read from a pro's perspective on differences between training indoors versus outdoors. Did you seem to lose or maintain or actually gain fitness? I'm assuming though that the main goal for you guys was to maintain fitness, but would love to hear your thoughts. Now, I know I'm kind of answering this question instead of the professional rider, but I thought I would give my own kind of insight and I don't know, like break it down and show you like what's been happening with my training, because as a lot of you will know, I have been racing a lot. I've been doing some training as well, but like the racing has been taken I guess priority because I enjoy doing it, and I'm lucky enough to be in a state where I'm fit enough to be able to race polarized. So what that means is the races, I often spend a lot of time in zone 1, zone 2, and when I'm not in zone 1, zone 2, I'm either going for a full-on attack or, you know, there's a big sprint or something. So I'm either, it's almost like an interval session itself, you know, I'm either going flat out or I'm kind of recovering, whereas a lot of kind of people who possibly aren't as strong, they spend a lot of time in zone 3 and zone 4. So here's my training peaks, and I'll jump between training peaks and WKO during this video. No idea how long it's going to be. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare my ride from my training from this time last year to my training now, specifically my peaks and things like that. And I'll just run you through some things really quickly just to form a bit of a baseline then, so we're all on the same page. So this is my PMC, my performance management chart, and for a lot of you, you're probably going to be drooling over this because this is like the bare bones of like what I do. So here we are. Obviously this side is where we are right now, and we've just come off a little bit of a block. So I'm currently at about 100 fitness, 110 fatigue-ish, and about -10 form. So pretty neutral, you know, nothing too spectacular. And then this time last year we were at 97 fitness, 104 fatigue, and -7. So almost identical, But you can see the blue dots. I'm sorry if you can hear that background noise. That's next door. The kids are like really active, and the walls are quite thin. So the blue dots are the intensity factor of the sessions. So a 1.0 intensity factor would be basically a threshold effort. Like that is exactly at your FTP, or working very close to your FTP if that is close to number 1. So the red then is the TSS. And you can see going up the side, we have 200, 250, 300 and things like that. So not going to go into too much detail, but you can see the spread of them. You can see red, you know, there's plenty of days off, you know, where I obviously don't ride the bike at all. But you can see kind of here, so we've been in lockdown for the last month, 6 weeks possibly. I've been riding indoors the last 6 weeks. So we'll go back 6 weeks from now, and we're looking at around about like the 1st of April. That's where we're going to kind of take our data collection from. So here's the 1st of April. I just come off a big block outside just before we went into lockdown. So So here we are here coming into lockdown. My first week in lockdown I took as a rest week, and then we started kind of going through a transition of building and maintaining gradually while in lockdown. So you can see there's clusters of red dots, meaning back-to-back days of training. Nothing too, we're going up to 200 there, so I suppose it is fairly big, but they're odd days spread out. But the majority of sessions, 100, 125, 107, 109, 145. So those are the majority. They're all kind of filtering down here. Now, it's the same on this side, but what you'll notice is there's a lot more of a cluster of intensity now. I am riding indoors up here, rather than here. There's a bit more of a spread. So the lowest is kind of around the 0.75 region, and they're going up to, I say 0.75, that's more like 0.6. But the spread is kind of quite broad, whereas on this side the spread is, well, not so broad. So they're more clustered in the 0.8 region. Now, in order to train there, you can't train there a lot because obviously the sessions are quite intense, unless the sessions are short, obviously. So I am having enough rest days, probably the same as this time last year. But you can see this time last year, over the course of that month, although this is May, so it won't actually let us go. I don't think it will it? Well, let's go further back than, last 730 days. But really, it won't tell us a lot. Now it looks a bit messy, because you can see now what I've done the last few seasons. But what you'll see is, what am I looking for here? Going as far back as April. Yeah, we're building there. So we're building. But the important thing is that to note that there's a lot bigger cluster of intense sessions now that I'm indoors. I think that's a no-brainer, I think. And when we go down to here, which is a fitness history, peak power from all workout types, we can see, let me just expand it. I can see that back in May, which we're obviously only halfway through as we speak, I did 64, let's call it 65 hours. We're going to ignore the distance because obviously the distance is outside there and the distance is indoors right now. TSS 3000, and in April we managed 3100, 3200. Kilojoules, again, that's the amount of work you do. Now that's a considerable amount of work when you compare it to most of the other months of the year. Like even during the season, you can see, July was well short, June well short, May similar, and then the numbers. And these are my peak numbers from, these months from the last year. And what we can see is, apart from, if we take out, the main months of the September, October, November, December, all that sort of thing. If we go back to May, and we have a quick, I will click on some of these as well just to give you a little bit more detail. But if we look at May, we have a big 5-second peak, but I don't often repeat that because I don't often sprint. Even in road races, like unless the road race is, I don't know, unless I'm like trying to get across to a break or kicking up a corner or doing a crit, I'd never really hit that. So this is why it's few and far between. The 1 minute, 5 minute, 20 minute, I will hit more often on a monthly basis, and they will be quite accurate. The 1 hour, probably not that accurate, especially if I'm not doing any Zwift racing or if I'm not doing any road racing. But what we can see from May is, let's compare it to April of this year, because obviously we're still halfway through May. I mean, we could look at these here for May, but they're not really complete yet. But if we look at May, I'm already kind of there or thereabouts, 513 watts. Some of these, like, that's why I say, like, ignore some of these in August, September, October, because this is hill climb season. You know, I'm like really pushing the boat out for my maximal anaerobic capacity right there. So these really skew the graph. You know, these are one-off efforts, whereas these sort of efforts in May and June, these are the efforts that potentially done in training or in road races. So they might well be fatigued efforts rather than fresh efforts. So keep your mind open to that a little bit. But if we look at May's 5 minutes, 3:92, and we'll take a quick look if it wants to load for us. Nice one. I've messed that one up. There we go. So that looks like a road ride, and it is. Now I haven't updated. Nice, sound of a car outside. I haven't updated my my premium training peaks, so we can't go into too much detail, but we don't really need to. This, I can tell you exactly where these are. So some 5 minute efforts. This was actually when I was in Lake Windermere. How cool is that? Shout out to Cycling Hub. But the 5 minute efforts were done on these climbs, and I can tell you now that some of them weren't actually 5 minutes. If I quickly highlight that one, for example, that's 4:46. Close enough. So you see what I mean? Like, these numbers can get skewed. If the effort wasn't actually 5 minutes, then that doesn't necessarily mean that the effort or the number will be accurate. So things like in October when we did a 436 watt 5 minute effort, that was actually in a 12 minute effort that won the British Hill Climb Championships. So if we had, say, a 10 minute section column right here, that would say the same. That would say 436, because that's what I did for 10 minutes as well. So you have to take these with a pinch of salt, but I'm just comparing for the sake of, you know, what quarantine has done to us, or what lockdown has done to us, and done to me rather, how it's affected me and how it's affected my fitness, my motivation and things like that. So hopefully you can see not just how it's affected like my fitness, but also how it's actually pointing myself. I've put myself in a place where I didn't think I'd be able to be by racing and training indoors. So if you look at my 5 minute power, it's quite consistent over the last 3 weeks in May. This has come from obviously doing racing quite a bit, but 4:10 in May. We look at 4:19 in May. Sorry, 4:10 in May. And if we look at here, 3:92, and that was like a pretty solid ride. That was a pretty solid effort. It wasn't empty in the tank, but still, it's pretty close to my other numbers, considering it's indoors. Same goes for the 20 minutes. 20 minute effort indoors is obviously quite hard, but it's not as hard as an hour, unless you're doing a race, which I'll get onto in a second. But in May, I did do a 20 minute test. This was during the same ride, believe it or not, up a climb in Lake Windermere, and that was 3:57. So in May, on April, I've done 3:67, 3:80. So I'm on par with everything else. The highest I've done recorded this year, or the last 12 months rather, is 3:85. The most I've done for, I think it's 70 minutes, is 3:95. So like I said, it doesn't appear on this graph at the minute that I'm showing you. It will show you on WKO, but I'm just using this graph as a comparison because it's a lot easier to see, rather than all the data you get on WKO. So the 1 hour powers, this is the biggest difference I've seen because of racing on Zwift and the way races are, especially if you do the long ones. You really are, I think, pushed to the limit. And even for someone like me, you know, when you do like, you know, the really long races, the ones that kind of take in, what did I do the other day? I did the, what was it called? It went over the Epic KOM, and then it went up Alpe d'Huez, and then it descended, and then it finished back in, it's the Four Horsemen course. So when you have a course like that, you know, you literally have no choice but to go, you know, as hard as you can. So what that's done is it's almost almost, apart from that one in July 2019 when that was an actual time trial. It was a Club 30 mile time trial. It's almost this week broken my, well, the last 12 months anyway. It's definitely equaled some of my best 1 hour power efforts. Now obviously that's not normalized power, but hopefully it gives you a little bit of an insight into it, into how indoor training is affected positively, I think, positively. And this is, again, another bit more of a breakdown. This is over the last 90 days, so we're not talking about a year ago, but you can see I'm doing less zone 1 riding. Well, it's debatable, isn't it? I mean, doing more zone 1 riding here, but you can definitely see some of these bars getting thicker the closer to the top you get. So zone 3 and zone 4, zone 2, zone 3 and zone 4. So again, it all comes down to the races that I'm doing. But again, this is the last 28 days. We have, let's change it to 90. There's little to no difference, so the training hasn't really got harder. Well, this is my power profile from the last 730 days as well. This is turning into more of like a just expose everything type of video rather than how is indoor training affecting me. But as you can see there, the trend over time is 60-minute power is increasing. The trend over time of 20 minutes is increasing as well. Same with the 5 minute, or rather the 5 minute is kind of flattening out, but still it's having its trends. The 1 minute, most people know I can't get my best 1 minute indoors. I just can't get the grunt right. So yeah, that's like probably going down. And then let's not even look at the 5 minutes, because that's just like, yeah. It's quite funny actually. We always talk about like, if I was to ever do a race against probably anybody watching this over like a 100-meter sprint, I would probably lose every time, unless it was uphill maybe. So let's just jump onto WKO just to finish this video in hopefully 20 minutes. This is a little bit more detail into the weekly averages you have here over the last 90 days. So we have, the TSS is broken down. So the majority of my riding, so if we look at here, the 6th of April, which is roughly the week we went into lockdown. Well, sorry, no, that's the big week I did outdoors. So roughly being able to do the same kind of average weekly TSS right there. And, the work is still pretty high. If anything, we go back to February and the work is not as good. Why am I not going to climb meters? Here, the work is not as good. Sorry. And you can see the intensity factor. The intensity factor has gone up. The trend has gone up. It has increased. So this is why I've had to, 100%, you can see the months there. 100% I've had to, as I've gone from a 0.61 intensity factor on average to a 0.77, I've really had to think about, the recovery days. I'm actually going to have to take them properly, and not kind of, because if you can go away with anything from this now video, I'm gonna close the video right now. If you go away from this video learning anything, I hope it's this one thing. Lockdown and people being at home and away from work, if you have been away from work, has taught me one thing. This free time you now have should not be put into doing more training specifically. It can be used to do smarter training, but now you get to reap the benefits from more recovery time. If you use the recovery time better instead of being in work as you would be normally, or commuting to work, or whatever it is, you'll improve even if you don't change your training. So make more use of that recovery time, double down on it, the training will take care of itself, and do it that way. Brilliant. That literally ended on 20 minutes. So I really appreciate you watching. Sorry it's been a long one, but it's a little bit different to, you know, your Zwift race. So I hope you enjoy that. It's raw, it's uncut, it's just me showing you my screen, talking. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want to hear more or you want more insights, comment down below, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with somebody who would also like to see this insight as well, because everybody should get to see it. Nothing's hidden when it comes to all the data. It's really geeky, it's really fun, and it's really cool to look back on when you've got such a diverse amount collected. So yeah, that's it from me, and I'll see you very, very soon.